Alberta's international border region. From the rolling foothills lining the peaks of the Rocky Mountains to the Badlands straddling this man-made frontier. A timeless landscape revealing archaeological treasures.
Airport teeth, we found at least half a dozen of them.
A musical tribute to the first peace officers of the 49th parallel.
Here in Fort McLoud is where it kind of all began in 1876.
And the world's largest collection of dinosaur remains under one roof.
There are some places in the province where it's impossible to take a step without crushing dinosaur bones under your feet.
Now, we trace the secrets of the world's longest undefended border. More than 6,000 kilometers of rugged American frontier. Canada, over the edge. From high above southern Alberta's vast open prairie, the city of Calgary is visible for kilometers. It is a unique modern metropolis, towering skyscrapers dwarfed by the peaks of the Rocky Mountains. Calgary is built on two rivers, the Bow and the Elbow. It has been a center of activity for First Nations peoples for more than 10,000 years. In the 19th century, Europeans in Canada and the United States began a westward expansion. Calgary became a hub for the Northwest Mounted Police, charged with patrolling the American frontier. Today, the city is home to more than 1 million people. It is the energy and financial hub for Western Canada and the host city for the 1988 Winter Olympic Games. Calgary is also known for its unique geography. Set between open prairie and the Alberta foothills. Just west of the city, at Sheep River Provincial Park, the landscape begins to rise. The park measures 60 square kilometers, highlighted by dense rolling forests, open grassy hillsides, and pristine river systems. Sheep River Provincial Park is part of the world-famous Kananaskis Country Park System, a cluster of more than 4,000 square kilometers of protected parkland. To the south, en route to the Canada-US border, Chain Lake's Provincial Park sits between Chain Lake and the Rockies. The park is located just an hour south of Calgary, drawing outdoor enthusiasts throughout the region. And here, in the heart of the foothills, the landscape rises even higher. Alberta's foothills hold rich ecosystems for a variety of plant life. And serve as a winter habitat for animals native to the nearby Rockies. In total, Alberta's foothills measure more than 66,000 square kilometers of unforgettable scenery. To the west of Chain Lake's Provincial Park, southern Alberta's Plateau Mountain dominates the landscape. Like Sheep River Provincial Park, it sits at the southern extremity of Kananaskis country, not far from the American border. Plateau Mountain rises more than 500 meters, located just north of the 50th parallel. The last remnant of Alberta's foothills east of the Rockies. It is also home to the Plateau Mountain Ecological Reserve. Established in 1991, amazingly, this barren, windswept summit is host to an array of plant life. Its unique geology and vivid colors make up a landscape unlike anything in the region. With spectacular vistas in all directions. "100 kilometers southeast, we leave the Rocky Mountains behind and descend the rolling foothills to the vast, flat expanse of the 49th parallel. Here, the 6-meter wide cut line that began at the British Columbia-Washington border continues more than 500 kilometers east of the Pacific Ocean. Continuing east, we followed the rugged open landscape of the Canada-US frontier. Nature trails and scattered wetlands line the border and mark Police Outpost Provincial Park, named in honor of the border region's early law enforcers. That modern-day frontier legacy can be seen just kilometers away at the Carway, Alberta, Pegan, Montana border crossing. And it is a legacy that is recreated in Fort McLoud to the north. Its timeless town site and fort is the only designated historic area in the province of Alberta.
My name is Natalie Asplund. I'm an employee at the Fort Museum. So where I am standing now is actually where the original town site would have been. As you can see, the house behind me was an original building.
The town of Fort McLoud was built around the barracks of the region's newly created police force. They were known as the Northwest Mounted Police, an early incarnation of today's RCMP.
In the summer of 1874, the force left Fort Dufferin, Manitoba, and they actually patrolled the 49th parallel to abolish the whiskey trade in Western Canada. The problem with the whiskey trade was primarily Americans crossing the Canadian-American border illegally and selling whiskey. The main reason of the force was to stop that and maintain control here in the West.
The Fort McLoud Museum houses artifacts and exhibits revealing 19th century life here. But its greatest attraction is found in the museum's stables. Here, a team of horses and student riders preserve the legacy of the RCMP Musical Ride.
Many people know about the modern-day musical ride that was started in the 1920s, more officially when the force became the RCMP. But here in Fort McLoud is where it kind of all began in 1876.
In the fort's earliest days, local guides assisted officers in setting riding drills to music. The goal was to train and exercise the horses, and to be a source of entertainment for officers along this vast frontier.
They would have to practice their drills, and eventually they started doing their own movements and different patterns and stuff that weren't necessarily official cavalry moves, but were something for them to kind of keep entertained. So we're in the shack right now. This is where all the riders will get ready for the ride. We got 2 change rooms in here, boys and girls, and we do all of our maintenance here on our surges and shining our boots and getting ready for the ride. The riders wear surges, they're sergeant dress uniforms that they would have worn in parades and stuff. And our horses are bay instead of black because on the March West, each division was given a certain color of horse, and the division that ended up in Fort McLoud used bay horses.
Natalie Asplund heads to the stables in preparation for the first ride of the day.
So this is NJ. He's one of our mounted patrol horses. He's been here for about 3 years, I think. He's a quarter horse. He's one of our tallest, and so I'm just going to saddle him up, get him ready for the ride. He has his shabrack on already. That's what the blanket over the top is. The shabrack, the breast color, and the saddles were actually donated to us by the official musical ride. They've always been a really big support for us here at the fort.
Asplund is joined by her team, and the recreation begins.
After the riders mount and the horses will come out, we will begin with the cavalry drill. Cavalry, as far as I know, is actually a historically accurate movement that the mounted police very well could have performed in the 1800s. What it did was had different movements on command, so the riders would be able to do formations when, if ever, they had to go into battle. It's a lot of moves that you will actually see in the official RCMP ride. It's a lot of fun, especially if you like horses and riding horses. It's a great summer job. The ride really brings Fort McLoud together. Starting last year, we actually did a retirement of the ride. It was our 40th anniversary of having the ride here at the fort. It's really important to keep the history here. The RCMP is a huge part of our country, and it kind of all started here, especially the musical ride, which is what Canada is, the symbol of Canada to some people, is the Mounties on their horses. So having this here for people to come and see and learn about how it all began is really important for our history.
Southeast of Fort McLoud, Alberta's frontier landscape evolves yet again. On approach to the American Divide, iconic open prairie lines the horizon. Here, we soar above traditional farmland, stretching for kilometers. Far below, cattle herds graze amongst rich, vibrant colors of the stunning prairie landscape. Agriculture is the lifeblood here. It is a billion-dollar industry, a resource providing 50,000 direct jobs to Albertans. Next on the horizon stands a historic symbol of Western farm life. This is Warner, Alberta's Elevator Row. 6 active wood-cribbed grain elevators running north-south along the Canadian Pacific Rail Line. They are known here as Prairie Cathedrals. The first of these grain elevators was built a century ago along a rail corridor stretching from Lethbridge, Alberta to Great Falls, Montana. Over time, Western Canada's grain elevators have been replaced by more modern facilities. Warner's Elevator Row is one of only 2 of its kind left on the Canadian prairies. Not far away, a more modern symbol of the prairie landscape rises high. By 2015, wind farms are expected to account for more than 7,000 megawatts of energy produced in Alberta. "20 years after Alberta built Canada's first commercial wind farm, they are a common sight on the open plains of the West. Continuing southeast, we return to the 49th parallel. Here, spectacular golden fields stretch for kilometers. This section of frontier is remote and largely uninhabited, seemingly impossible to patrol. Further east, we reach the border crossing of Coutts, Alberta and Sweetgrass, Montana. These tiny communities mark one of the busiest border crossings in the West. Stop trains are a common sight here, awaiting permission from customs officials to proceed north or south. And the crossing marks the meeting point of Highway 4 and Interstate 15, connecting Alberta to the southern states and Mexico beyond. Across the border, Montana's Sweetgrass Hills lie in the distance. These prairie islands cover much of Montana's northern landscape. The hills were formed more than 20 million years ago by igneous rock forced upwards. The rock eroded over time, leaving these stunning anomalies behind on an otherwise flat landscape. The hills are a sacred site to the Blackfoot First Nations on both sides of the frontier and represent one of the most iconic images of the Alberta-Montana border region. East of Sweetgrass, Montana, and just north of the 49th parallel, we encounter one final landscape along the Canada-US divide. Writing on Stone Provincial Park is located in the Badlands region of southern Alberta, a rugged, eerie landscape. Here in the park, incredible rock formations known as hoodoos cover 17 square kilometers. It is one of the largest areas of protected prairie in the Alberta Park System for its unique geography and its cultural significance. Writing on Stone Provincial Park is home to the largest concentration of ancient petroglyphs in the Great Plains region, and another sacred site to the First Nations peoples who straddle this frontier. Beyond Writing on Stone Provincial Park, the Badlands continue in all directions. The Badlands are a stunning geographical feature. They are formed by erosion caused by the movement of ancient rivers that once rushed towards an inland sea. Millions of years later, they are also an archaeological wonder and one of the most important sites for dinosaur exploration on Earth.
My name is François Tyrrell. I'm the curator of dinosaur paleoecology at the Royal Tyrrell Museum. So we are standing here in the middle of the Badlands of southern Alberta. That rugged landscape of rounded hills and steep canyons can be found all the way from north of Drumheller to the American border. And these Badlands were carved at the end of the last ice age as the glaciers started melting. The meltwater just carved broad valleys in the underlying substrate and then exposed those beautiful rocks that are full of fossils. The site we're looking at today is very exciting because it is a bone bed of a horned dinosaur called Arinoceratops. Bone bed is a layer of rock that contains the skeletal remains or the bones of several individuals of the same species. And here, this site is really exciting because it's the first time we find a bone bed of that very rare species called Arinoceratops. Ooh, so that's not at all horncore at all.
François Tyrrell joins his team on site in the heart of one of the world's richest fossil beds.
So it's not a horncore? Nope. It's probably a fibula or something. Yeah, a bone of some sort, yeah. Yeah, definitely too spindly to be, tibia or anything else.
Using awls, picks, and rock hammers, they carefully carve away sediment on a new site, revealing dinosaur remains millions of years old. At the far edge of the search area, technician Ramon Nagasan makes the first discovery of the day.
So Francois, I got a bone here in the last couple minutes.
Yeah, nice.
So just clearing the trench around for this fibula here, and this little nub popped up.
Yeah, that looks like a chevron, the small, hook-shaped bone that collected.
Oh yeah, it does kind of have that really thin and narrow shape to it.
It will probably be, kind of curved shape, and that looked like it could be the articular.
Yeah, it keeps going a little bit that way.
He believes he has found a bone from the tail area of the Arinoceratops, known as the chevron.
That rock dries, it'll become more clear.
Really nice.
Cool.
Just have to find the rest of the animal now.
Yeah, all of it.
Yeah.
Days into the expedition, Tyrion is beginning to understand the scope of the discovery.
The bones are not all connected together, rather they've been scattered around by current. So here on the left we have bones of the lower jaw, part of the snout, and then towards the farther right we have actually part of the orbit where the eye socket would have been, and then part of the frill, the big shield that's at the back of the head of this animal. And then to our right and behind here we have two lower jaws that also came from that site.
The team methodically begins putting together the pieces.
So here, this is part of the lower jaw. This is a piece of bone that basically are on the side of our head where the chewing muscles insert or attach. And then here we come down to the main body of the lower jaw. And then the teeth would be sticking out right here to be inside the mouth. So have you found the skull yet?
No. Actually, I haven't found anything. I wasn't sure if I was too far off the grid or whether I should be working closer there.
No, I think it's probably just where, too high still, because the big bones are way at the bottom. But we have lower jaw two lower jaws coming from behind you, so we're definitely not too far out. And also there's definitely more of the skull there. It's just
so
that
you
we're
just need
probably
to go lower.
too high. Exactly.
Okay.
On the opposite end of the site, Marilyn Laframboise believes she has found the lower jawbone of a dinosaur and multiple teeth.
Well, in this corner of the bone bed, there seems to be an awful lot of theropod teeth. We found at least half a dozen of them, just about one every day, almost. This is the first one I found. It was in a concretion, and they're distributed through the layers. So we find them on the top layer, we find them in this middle layer. And they're all about the same size.
With each new find, Terrian's understanding of the site improves. He now believes these dinosaurs may have been scavenged after death, explaining the scattered remains. Today, the team will complete their work by removing a section of sediment. They have identified a valuable cache of sediment and surrounded it with a hardened plaster cast, known as a plaster jacket.
There was a piece of a frill, the shield at the back of the head that was exposed here. So Marilyn carved a big hole around it to isolate the block that contains both the rock and the bones. And then she designed a plaster jacket, which is a mixture of burlap and plaster, which when it solidifies, forms a very hard shell. And then because the block is so hard, she had to put pieces of wood so that basically the jacket wouldn't flex, wouldn't try to move when we flip it. So now that Marilyn's trenched all the way around it, carved a little bit underneath to do what we call pedestaling, so raise it on a little column. It will be really easy to use that block, flip it over, so we can actually, after that, cover the underside and then carry the jacket back to the museum.
Yeah, it's ready.
They will flip the jacket and transport it for further analysis.
All right.
Ready?
Yep.
There we go. Perfect. That's what we like to see, so that basically, there's no bone, no broken bones sticking out right here, so it's telling us that we went deep enough under the rock so that when we flip the block, there's no bone that keeps sticking out there. So empty out the jacket as much as we can, cover this side, then we'll be ready to be taken home to the museum.
The plaster cast removal is a success, but it is just one step in revealing the treasures hidden beneath this incredible landscape. Terrian now believes this site holds the remains of at least 2 dinosaurs, and maybe more.
The job of paleontologist is easily the best job in the world. You get to come in beautiful landscapes like that, spend all day hiking in the Badlands. It's good workout, and then you end up discovering fossils that have never been seen before. You find bones that have been buried underground for 75 million years, so you know that you're the first person to lay eyes upon those fossils. So it's a really, really exciting job, and the potential of discovering unknown species is really what's thrilling about it and what keeps paleontologists going.
The town of Drumheller, Alberta, is located 100 kilometers from the city of Calgary and is home to just over 8,000 people. It is located on the Red Deer River in the heart of the Badlands. Drumheller is one of Alberta's top tourist destinations, but not only for the stunning landscape. Visitors come here to see Francois Terrian's base of operations firsthand, the world-famous Royal Tyrrell Museum.
We are right now standing in the middle of Dinosaur Hall, the main gallery at the Royal Tyrrell Museum, and the mission of the museum is to educate people about the history of life on Earth with a strong emphasis on the fossil discoveries made here in Alberta. So as visitors walk through the museum, they actually travel through time. They walk through the time tunnel, and then they go through different stages in the evolution of life on Earth.
The first stop is a skeleton recovered from the 75-million-year-old rock of the Badlands. It is the first example ever found of feathered dinosaurs in North America.
So this is one of the 3 skeletons of ornithomimids that preserve evidence of feathers. If you look at the forelimb in this individual, you'll see black marks that represent actually the roots or the insertion site for the wings, the feathers that form the wing in this animal. So it's telling us that these animals had wings even though they're far too large to be flying animals. So it's telling us that wings probably originally evolved not for flight but for display and courtship, maybe even for brooding the nests, and only later during evolution did wings actually evolve or were taken for flight.
Next in the museum timeline are the remains of an ancient marine reptile recovered from a nearby mountaintop.
This animal lived during the late Triassic, roughly 220 million years ago, and it's not a dinosaur, it's actually a marine reptile, looked a lot like a whale, and at over 20 meters in length, it is definitely the size of a whale. So it is the largest marine reptile ever discovered in the world, and as you can see here, we have everything from the tip of the snout all the way to the midsection of the body and then a segment of the tail.
But the gem of the Royal Tyrrell Museum is Dinosaur Hall, a world-class collection of dinosaur reconstructions.
So this is Dinosaur Hall in the context of travel through time that we saw in the museum. We're going from the late Triassic, the beginning of the age of the dinosaurs, to the golden age of the dinosaurs during the late Jurassic. So we have the sauropods, Stegosaurus, Allosaurus, just an introduction to the better known dinosaurs. And then we're entering the golden age here in Alberta, which is the late Cretaceous, roughly between 80 to 66 million years ago. So these animals are by far the most common, but also the most iconic for Alberta. We have remains of what we call bone beds, which are layers of rocks that contain bones of hundreds, if not thousands of individuals. There are some places in the province where it's impossible to take a step without crushing dinosaur bones under your feet.
More than 375,000 people visit this facility each year. They come to see everything from dinosaurs so small they could fit in your hand, up to the mighty Tyrannosaurus Rex. But behind the scenes, the real work carries on. In the scientific wing of the Royal Tyrrell Museum, paleontologists analyze plaster jackets recovered from the field.
So this is the prep lab, short for preparation lab. This is where the magic happens, where all the blocks that are collected in the field are brought so they can be prepared. So you can see all the plaster jackets are brought in, opened up, and then technicians use a variety of tools to peel away all the rock and expose all the bones that are contained in the rock. So we have a string of vertebrae there, the tail section of a large marine reptile called a mosasaur, and you can see some of the tools that are being used by the technician to flip up the rock and slowly uncover all the bones so that they can be consolidated and prepared for study and display. Usually we'll just find segment of a body, but when you find connected bones together, that tells us that this animal was buried when there were still muscles and tissue, skin, keeping all the bones together. So that's always a good potential to uncover what the animal looked like as opposed to just isolated bones. Ideally, the dream of any paleontologist is to find all the bones connected together, leading to the head of the animal, and then you have a complete skeleton laid out exactly as it was when the animal was alive. The field of paleontology is a never-ending endeavor. We constantly make new discoveries. Erosion constantly reveals new fossils, so it's a never-ending job. There's going to be work for years to come with new discoveries always coming to the surface and always new species that have yet to be discovered.
From the Prairie region's largest metropolitan center, Calgary, to the rolling hills and soaring peaks of southern Kananaskis country, to the immaculately eroded frontier landscape known as the Badlands. Alberta's border region is an international treasure. It is barren, bold heights, and ancient, awe-inspiring depths. A showcase in diverse beauty. Here on the edge of Canada.